Hey, Joe Brunsman here, back with another video for you. So this past week, I was actually on Dave Sobel's podcast. It was the Business of Tech podcast for MSP Radio. And at the very end, he asked me this question, really dealing with, if I had a magic wand, what's that one piece of advice that I would give to the MSP community? And I listened to the interview after it was published, link in the description below, recommend everybody go take a listen to that. But I really just kind of flubbed the answer. and So mea culpa, my bad. I wanted to come out with something to really kind of give a little more explanation on what I was talking about. So that's going to be the topic of today's video, and that's going to be those hard truths that MSPs and your owners out there you really need to hear right now. So, as these weeks have gone on, I'm talking with more and more MSPs all the time, and these are really some glaring holes and things I think every MSP owner should know to really save you a ton of time and heartache. So the path today is going to be contracts, E&O insurance documentation, offering more services, cybersecurity requirements, requiring cyber insurance, and then a quick bonus for you at the very end. All right, so the first one is you got to have a damn contract. You have to have a contract. And why? Because if you don't have a contract, if you get sued, a claim is brought against you, it's literally he said, she said. And how's that really going to turn out? Like, how do you think that's going to work out in court when it's going to be, hey, I hired this guy because I don't know anything about tech and he's the tech master of the world and now I'm out cash, or now my email doesn't work, or, even if it's something obviously that they didn't hire you to do, well, there's no contract there. So how are you going to prove that you weren't hired to do that? And then you have to think as well, yeah, maybe your work was spotless, but what about that work they didn't hire you to do? Maybe they just, legitimately thought you were doing that, but you didn't have a contract, so they didn't know, right? Maybe they're misunderstanding what you're saying. A lot of the technology world is honestly quite alien to a lot of people, and I think every listener here can really side with that sentiment. So you gotta put it down in writing. With a contract, I said we were doing X. We offered to do Y or Z. They didn't want to do Y or Z. So the scope of my services is very clearly defined. And if some loss occurred outside of that, hey, that's not what I was hired to do, right? So you need to have a damn contract with your clients, or else you're just going to get hosed, right? Going back to that point, it's going to clarify what is covered, what is not covered. What are you doing? What are you not doing? And we're going to talk a little bit more about contracts a little later on, but you got to have that. One question I get all the time is, okay, now I have contracts, or I'm working with an attorney. I'm going to get these contracts done. How do I broach that topic to my insurance company? And it's really simple. You just blame the insurance company. Why do I say you do that? Well, first of all, your insurance company is probably going to just require you have those contracts anyway, so it's very straightforward. And two, everybody hates insurance companies. So I'm sure your clients would just, they'd side with you on this and be like, yeah, I really hate insurance companies. And you're like, yeah, me too. But now we got to sign this contract. But hey, while I'm here, let's talk about those services that we're offering and maybe what we're not offering. And maybe there's some additional room in there for you to provide some additional necessary services and controls to those clients to try and keep them safer. And with that, here's two attorneys for you that really specialize in this area. This is, just to Don, full disclaimer here, personal buddy of mine, got my master's in cyber law with him. He's a partner at a big law firm up in PA, super knowledgeable guy, really friendly, great rates. And then of course, Bradley Gross, I think everybody here knows him. He's been working in this area for way longer than I have. So very, very knowledgeable guy. There's two for you. You can do your own research. Just find someone who can assist you in this particular area. All right. Next is just going to be, you got to have E&O insurance. And why? Because you can think about professional services. Roughly 2/3 of claims have nothing to do with the quality of your work. So just because you didn't do anything wrong doesn't mean you're not going to get sued. Now you could play that game and you could say, hey, I'm so good, I just don't think I'm going to get sued. I wouldn't recommend you play that game, so best of luck with that. But in the description below, you're going to find a link to this video. This is just me going through a quick run through of an E&O insurance policy. If it's something you've been putting off because you're just uncomfortable with it, you don't really know where to start, you think there's this huge knowledge advantage that, say, an insurance broker would have over you, I'm here to say it's not really that hard, to be honest with you. If it was that hard, I definitely wouldn't get paid to do it because I'm not the smartest guy in the world. So, just briefly watch that video. Just do it on double speed if you need to, just to burn through it. I think everyone would learn a lot from that, but make sure you have that insurance. Next is going to be use offensive documentation. And what do I really mean by that? So for your attorneys and your accountants, probably every month or so, you're going to get some newsletter as an example. And I don't know how many of you ever read those newsletters. I'm literally on the mailing list of like 300 different CPA firms just because of the nature of my work here. So I definitely don't read all of them. But what's interesting is a lot of those newsletters actually contain something called offensive documentation. So it's these warnings about certain things that are coming out, right? So we'll go back to the CPA example. Let's say in Florida, there's some new particular statute that's dealing with charitable donations or something. Well, in that case, let's say a claim later comes back because, you're like, hey, you didn't tell me about this charitable donation deduction that I could have used, and that would have saved me X number of dollars. Well, then the CPA firm is going to go, they're going to say, well, actually in our newsletter, we put in that there was this new law coming out about charitable donations. And so, in that at the very bottom, it says, if you have any questions, please let us know. Now, is that going to totally invalidate the claim that you could potentially have against, say, your accountant? No, but it's going to provide that additional kind of buffer there where at the very least, it's going to make your case harder, right? Because they're going to say, hey, we told you so. We can lead that horse to water. We can't make him drink. We told our client, hey, this new deduction was coming out. They didn't contact us. They didn't take advantage of it. So it just provides more ammunition for the prevailing party. So think about that, right? Your newsletter there, it's just a way to contact people anyways, but start throwing in all those horror stories that we just see in the world in the news every day, right? Start talking about business email compromise. Start talking about, internal controls with wiring funds, or if you're not comfortable with that, team up with a CPA firm that does that kind of stuff. Very, very basic, but highly effective. Not enough people are utilizing this. Also throw in there, any scam alerts, so any kind of big news, just things that are going to build up over time to really help your business. And of course, tie that in with additional services. So, let's say there's some news story out in the local area where someone got hit with a business email compromise and they stole a ton of PII because of that from that business. Well, tie that in with your newsletter. Say, hey, this is what happened to somebody else. And oh, by the way, these are these additional services that we offer to try and harden your email system to minimize the possibility of that type of loss for your business, right? If you're interested, let us know. And then you can use that as just kind of marketing to your existing clients. So it's really actually good for everybody. And keep in mind that people hired you because they're not comfortable with technology. They don't have the time to deal with it. So anytime you can kind of bring it back down to their level, right? Get away from the super technical stuff and really get into those human interest pieces. Use that human interest piece as really the bridge to the higher level service offerings. Everybody's happy. And of course, could save you down the line. All right, next, let's talk about going higher. This is something that I think, probably 99% of MSPs are just not doing out there. So the first one is always offer higher services, right? Offer that, whatever that additional control would be, right? Offer, if they just want basic email services, offer email hardening services. If they want, say vulnerability scanning, right? Make sure there's an option for a penetration test. Whatever that cause may be, always build in that little buffer where you can always go back, right? If a claim arises with that client and you can say, we offered additional services and that could have potentially saved them from this, and it's documented in writing. That's going to be key. And then let's say they checked yes or no on that, right? If they check no, now that's just more ammunition that your attorney is going to have when that claim arises, or when that client's angry with you because something happened to their computer system. You can go back and you can say, we talked about this. We offered an additional service that could have potentially mitigated or avoided this entire loss to you, but you said you didn't want to do it. We can do it now, but we can't change things in the past. And I have seen this actually true life. I have seen this actually talk that client off the ledge from suing a provider, because now they realize, oh, it's not them, it was me. I was dumb. I made the mistake of not having that additional service offering. So in this particular case, yeah, you know what? We did have this loss, but it's because I'm dumb and I should have just put more additional funding into this and it could have avoided that altogether. So very, very powerful for you. All right, next is I'd recommend all of you guys just get savvy on those cybersecurity requirements, specifically cybersecurity law. Now, I'm not saying you need to start giving legal advice. I'm not giving legal advice. I'm not giving insurance advice. I'm just giving general insurance considerations here. But when you get savvy on these cybersecurity requirements, you know, I hear a lot of MSPs, and I talked to Dave Sobel about this, where, you know, they're worried about being too expensive. Well, when you start talking to clients about, you know, hey, this is what's in the laws that are prevalent to you, this is something you should consider, right? A lot of those laws are actually going to require all these things. So, you know, once you start bringing, hey, these are these legal requirements, like now you're putting the onus, right? Kind of like the bad guy face is going to be on the government entities. You're there to help them solve a problem. You're not there to just necessarily take all their money away. It just changes the dynamics. And once again, it's really good for everybody. Why? Because you as the MSP, you can help your clients stay more secure. In doing that, you could potentially make more money. With that, your client can keep their information secure. What does that do? It just keeps the world safer. I'm tired of all of these breaches. It drives me insane. I deal with at least one a week. And it really, what we never really talk about is all that downstream harm where, yeah, maybe someone gets credit monitoring, but their identity is already stolen. And it takes them, 5-6 months to try and unwind that. And it's just a giant nightmare and it affects their daily life. And, maybe they were about to buy a house. Now they can't do it anymore. And it's just a nightmare. So it helps everybody get savvy on those cybersecurity requirements. Use that as a tool to assist your clients and help them realize that they really do need more cybersecurity controls in place. And you can make more money, they can stay more secure, the public stays safer, everybody wins. All right, next is requiring or recommending clients have cyber insurance. I've talked to a lot of MSPs that are now putting this in their contract that they're recommending or requiring their clients have it. Why are they doing that? It's a risk transference mechanism. So when something goes wrong, you don't want them looking towards you. You want them looking towards their insurance company. Now, if they got the right insurance or not, that's going to be on them. If there's a dispute, they can always try and sue that cyber insurance company, right, to recoup those funds. Caveat, that's very rare that happens these days. Generally, I'd say in most circumstances, the cyber insurer is paying out. I've only had 2 cases where there was ever a question mark, and we won that. So there's really shouldn't be that big of a concern there. Obviously, speak with an attorney. There were 2 before. There's multitudes other out there that can assist you with getting the exacting language you need inside of your contracts to make sure that you're doing this appropriately. All right, next, just had to kind of throw this one in here. I have had a lot of requests to do some sort of like webinar for MSP clients, actually talk about cyber insurance. If you're interested, this is a link to download my book for free. You can also send this link out to all your clients. They can get my 500-page book on cyber insurance compliance and really be, I'd say much more savvy than 99.9% of insurance brokers trying to sell this stuff. So it can really save a lot of heartache once again. All right, and this was the bonus. This is what Dave and I were talking about, and I wish we just had more time to get into this, but I really wanted to say something about these regulations. So if MSPs don't start forming state societies, you guys are going to be screwed. You are going to be royally screwed. Why? Because the regulations are coming. Look at some of the big states right now. California, New York, they are hurting for cash and people are leaving in droves. I mean, I think California, they just proposed some new bill where they would have this retroactive 4% wealth tax back 10 years. which is patently obscene, actually, and I'm not even sure it's entirely legal or how they'd even pull that off. But needless to say, these states are dying for cash. And what's an easy way to do that? Well, they already have licenses for hairdressers and anybody working in cosmetics and pretty much every other line of professional services. MSP and technology, that's an easy next step for them. And what are you going to do? Like, there's no collective voice in your state at the moment, as far as I've seen. So some legislator could just pop this in somewhere, and then all of a sudden you're screwed because no one's watching it and everyone's just running their business. You're going to get hammered there. The other thing you have to consider is, let's say some big player in your market actually gets wind of this, and now they have, the ability to whisper in the ear of that legislator and make that particular piece of legislation directly benefit them, where they could just price you out of the market entirely. Where, hey, if you're going to provide XYZ services, you need to have 1, 2, 3 certifications in place to even do that. And if you don't, there's going to be some monster fine. And now you're like, oh, well, that customer is gone. I can't even provide services to him anymore because it's not even profitable. I'm going to lose money by providing services to this one vertical in my business. If you don't get savvy now, the regulators are going to crush you. The big players in your market are going to crush you. So ultimately, you can either have a voice in this upcoming regulation apocalypse, or you're just going to be playing the victim. But one way or another, it's going to affect you. So, get on board with those state societies. Do whatever you have to do internally within your own states. I'm sure you guys generally know who the players are in your own territories. Start making that happen now, because if you don't, you're going to get hammered. All right, with that, this is where you can download a free copy of my new book, 500 pages on cyber insurance and compliance. If you're super interested and you want that Kindle copy or Amazon, also available with that. And that's all I've got to say on that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. And I added a little bit more depth there into the random mumble that I had spewing out there at the end of Dave's podcast. Dave, I'm sorry. I should have been more prepared for that question. All right, like, share, comment, subscribe. If you guys have any questions, leave them down below. And with that, stay safe.